Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. This week we're going to be doing The Ferret, #1 from Malibu, and that was produced in 1993. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own artwork that can help support the channel if you guys decide to support it this way. I make a monthly comic that I produce on Patreon, and I also put up on my own website. If you go to patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, or you go to alexanderturbin.com. You can get them both there. The Patreon, it's only $2 a month for a full-size, full-color, 12-page comic book. And this is the newest one, Random Access, because I always do Random Access. And the cover is by Alex Daikaiju, and it's fantastic. And this is a comic that I actually wrote and drew back in the late 90s. And I just newly colored it and everything like that. So, yeah, this is the newest issue. And if you check that out and all of my other random accesses and Mutandis and all that stuff, again, you can check that out on alexanderturbin.com or go to Patreon. And if you enjoy this kind of content, reviewing comics and stuff, I really hope you consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell, because it really helps, not monetarily because I can't monetize yet, but it helps me know that I'm not just talking into a void, and that getting feedback is always great. It really encourages me to continue doing this. And it's something I enjoy, but I really kind of need that the encouragement. But enough begging for subscribers. Let's get into The Ferret. I chose this one because of the die cut out cover. I don't know how many of these types of covers are out there. But this is pretty cool. I really like the die cutness. But if you're like me and you're a collector, you like all your stuff the same. So even though this is cool, and I guess it would fit in your collection because it is regular comic size, it's kind of wonky as far as your collection. So if you're like me and you like things a certain way, then this might not be for you. So we have The Ferret, written by R.A. Jones. Penciler is Dean Zachary, with inks by Ken Branch, and the lettering Tim Alred, and the colors by Malibu Pack Rats. I think that must be some computer coloring. I guess this is the time when they're starting to do computer coloring, and it's like they've said on Cartoonist Kayfabe, the coloring at the time is a little I'm not going to say amateurish, but it's in its infancy, and it takes a lot of work to get computer coloring right. As I know full well, I just started computer coloring my comics in the last few months, and there's a steep learning curve even now, even with all of the tools you have now. So we'll start with the story. It starts right up in the action, which is kind of good and kind of bad. If you like a comic with just action, just fight scenes, and not a whole lot of storyline, then this is the book for you. Me, I like things that go a little deeper. I don't want to see just a full fight scene. I need characterization. I need a real deep plot. And well, I mean, not in everything, but really my favorite comics are heavy plot, heavy characters, like the X-Men, and just something that it has to say something. In Daredevil has his blindness and his faith, and all that kind of stuff. So really, a comic to me to really hit that magical spot. And I think I'll talk about this in another episode, is that magical spot of transcending the art form, or making the art form as best as it can be. There's very few real um, things that do that, real comics that do that. One that comes to mind is the Sandman. I've been rewatching the TV show on Netflix, and you know, I watch it and I think about the comic and how great the comic is, and it's probably a little bit better than the show, but it really hits that sweet spot of drawing you in, and changing you. A great comic changes your life, and that is something that I've always strived to do. I don't really think I've met that mark yet. Maybe in Max, which I'll show at some point. Um, but uh, yeah. So the ferret. It starts in the action, and he has picked this punk up that has killed a shop owner, and I think he says, yeah, he says later, it says a Korean shop. Yeah, murdered a Korean shopkeeper. Um, I'm not sure if sticking in the Korean part turns this into a racist thing, or if it's just that little bit of information that makes writing that much more believable. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. Just sticking that in. Um, I'm not sure. I'm always up in the air as far as what's racist and what isn't. I mean, you've got your clear cut racism, and then you've got your fringe racism that, like Michael Scott. Is Michael Scott racist in The Office? I don't really think so, because I think so much of racism is intent, and he's never intends to be racist. So, but it's something to debate anyway. So he's doing this whole Batman holding the criminal off the ledge kind of thing, and but he says you can't kill me. You're one of the protectors, because the ferret is an offshoot of the protectors, which is a Malibu superhero team, I guess. I never really read this when I first got it. I just read it a little while ago, and I've never been into Malibu or the protectors or anything like that. So this is kind of new stuff to me, and so he says, "You can't kill me. You're part of the protectors," and they've made that pact. And the ferret says, "Yeah, I guess the the news media has put that out there so the criminals aren't as scared." But he says, "The fall won't kill you. It'll just break a bunch of bones," which is pretty cool. So he wants him to tell him. He wants the thug to tell the ferret, excuse me, about who his accomplices are, which are these two guys. And they kind of bust in, and the ferret just drops him, and to scare the criminals. And so he lands on a dumpster, breaking his bones or whatever. And these guys are just afraid. So the ferret kind of goes in, and they do some fight scenes and stuff. And then it goes into an interlude at a hospital where this mysterious figure has been in a coma for 7 years, and he wakes up, and it's very Kill Bill-ish, actually. Well, not super Kill Bill, but kind of Kill Bill when she comes out of her coma. But these guys aren't jerks or anything. This guy's just hitting on the nurse, and trying to get her to go on a date with him, whatever. But this guy wakes up, and he's some sort of monster, and he kills the doctor, and the nurse runs away. And I'm going to come back to this. He has some kind of brain seizure, and I think the brain seizure is supposed to be a memory of what he has to do, and he has to kill the ferret that's in his brain. So he smashes out of the hospital, and the next interlude is a nightclub where the ferret's real identity is he's a musician. And I think this is really cool. I don't know of any other superheroes that are musicians, let alone rock stars, but that's kind of cool. So he notices this woman, and I don't know, I think she might be one of the other protectors or whatever. So he kind of tries to hit on her or whatever, and but then his manager or something barges into their conversation, and he tells him, "Oh, Yeah, there was a flyer. This is very odd. There's a flyer because the ferret smokes, and there's a flyer. I keep saying flyer. Anyway, of this group that is anti-smoking, and they want him to stop smoking because it's not a good uh, for the kids. It's not a good image for the kids. And he's like a role model, and he says, "Screw that. I'm not really a role model." Um, and I don't have no ambition to be a role model. I don't know. I think this might be saying you shouldn't be smoking in comics because kids are reading comics, and that's not appropriate for them. But they go past this, and they go into this whole thing with a few pages of smoking and whether you should be smoking or not. But then the Beast guy kind of barges in. He sees a poster of Cal Denton, which is the alternate identity of the ferret, and he smashes into the club, and they just get into this big fight. He and the ferret, they each fight, and he throws him around, and the ferret smashes into stuff, and I think this might be her. I'm not sure. Night Mask. But anyway, she joins in. She's like midnight something. I think that's her code name or whatever. So I guess it's not Night Mask. Anyway, if you know, let me know in the comment section. So they have a little tussle. They have a little fight, and so the ferret, the bad guy smashes the girl, and the ferret gets all pissed off. But he's gonna hold punches because he doesn't want to hurt him, which is a little silly. So they smash out of the club into the street, and this guy who's in a car smashes into a fire hydrant, and they're still tussling, and they just keep fighting. And the ferret says, "I'm going to use my brains instead of my brawn," which is very not typical of him, because this whole beginning section kind of is saying that he's all about his physicalness and his willing to do whatever it takes. So anyway, he uses the water to push the bad guy back, and they just keep fighting, and that's pretty much almost how it ends. But they keep battling back and forth, and smashing into the car, and the bad guy does some weird thing with his mouth, opening his mouth, because he has the ferret pinned against the wall. And like Alien, he shoots something out of the back of his throat, and he's like, "What have you done?" And "I've killed you." So that's how it ends. The bad guy supposedly killing the ferret, but I don't know. Does he have a healing factor? I don't know. And here's some advertisements for stuff coming from Malibu. Excuse me. Raver and Man of War, and so yeah, that's the Ferret number one. As far as the writing goes, it's competent. I would say that there's not much going on. There's a fight scene in the beginning. There's a little bit of dialogue between a doctor and a nurse, introduces the villain. The villain comes and he finds the hero, and they have another long fight scene. They talk about cigarettes, and the villain supposedly kills the hero. So that's the plot of the whole book. The writing is adequate. There's a couple of things that I think just it's 90s comics. It's got that 80s, 90s action movie mentality, where he's going to say some one-liners. Like he says, "Let him go," and he says, "Let him go," you say, and then he drops him off of the roof. So he has a bunch of one-liners just like that. And the writing is adequate. The dialogue is nothing special, but it is what it is, I guess. I mean, if you like this kind of nonsensical shallow. I can't say shallow because that is too much of a um, detriment to the comic and the writer. It's not shallow. It's simply, it is what it is. It's a 90s comic with a lot of action and not much dialogue and not much story, not much plot, not much characterization. It is what it is. It's not bad. Certainly it reads well, and you don't get lost in what everybody's saying. You know who everybody is. So I would say the writing is adequate. The artwork is pretty good. It's very imagey. I feel like they want to be image. But I really like the panel layout. The panel layout is a lot of what I like to do, where it'll have like like action scenes and then a main scene, main panel. The panels are all they breathe. It's not all a grid of panels, because I mean, grid of panels is good, and it's easy to read. And sometimes when you have panels overlapping other panels, or images breaking the borders, sometimes that can make a comic a little bit harder to read. But in this one, it seems to work. And I think it's because the guy has a pretty good hold of his narrative art. There's a couple scenes like this page right here where he's trying to scare the two bad guys, and it just doesn't read very well. I kind of feel like if this panel had been up here, then you would have lost the moon. You'd have had a different pose for the ferret here. But it really it reads this way and then up and around. And so it um, you get lost a little bit. On this page, you have this action sequence at the top, which is just kind of grade characters. Um, I kind of wish this had taken over here, and maybe you had. I kind of like these. You don't need this. That's like the end of the fight scene where he's lighting a cigarette. You kind of don't really need that. You could have just had, another action panel. But overall, I like the art. I think it moves smoothly and crisply. You can tell, like I said, he's trying to be Image. He's trying to be Todd McFarlane. He's trying to be Jim Lee, with the way the panels are, and a lot of the scenes, like her looking over here at him like that. It probably would have been better if she'd been on the other side and he was over here looking this way, so your eye moves from left to right, because that's what you always want to do. You want to keep the action moving. You want to keep the pace moving. Um, I don't know how tight the pencils are, but sometimes I feel like the pencils or the detail is a little bit lacking, um, like this here. And this anatomy is a little wonky, but I don't really care about the anatomy as long as it looks good. And that's a pretty cool pose. I kind of just wish it had a little bit more detail in the face and stuff, and it could have given it a little bit more pop. Here's one thing. Um, so searing pain rips through his skull like lightning through the spring sky, and this is a an illustration of this text. Really, if this does its job, you don't need the text. Um, but if you want to wax poetic, then you could have had this, through the spring sky. I mean, I guess if you want to have that, it doesn't really need to be there, but it kind of explains um, something that's going on that you should probably be able to see. So anyway, to conclude it all, I do like the art. I guess I just wish it was a little bit more detailed. Um, I do like the whole cut out all of the pages. Um, and the cover of just this head is pretty cool. It's really filling the image, the area, kind of like Dark Knight 3, where his body just completely fills the image area. Um, so yeah, it's this isn't for me. I like my comics to have a little bit more meaning. And here's another thing. I've owned a few ferrets in my life, and I love ferrets. I think they're awesome. And he is not a ferret. I just wish, like Wolverine, he acts like a Wolverine. Wolverines go crazy. They're small. They go nuts. They go berserk. He is what he is. But the ferret has no ferrety type things. They're inquisitive. They are nimble. They're super smart. They can get into small places. There's a lot of different qualities of the ferret that he just doesn't have any of them. Maybe in the later issues, they explain some of his qualities as the ferret, but overall, I'm going to say it is what it is. A lot of people like this kind of thing. I would. It's not power, definitely, but they're trying to. They were trying to be Marvel. They were trying to be a cross between Marvel and Image, and it for me it was not a success. I didn't really love reading the story. It was okay. Kind of just mind-numbing fight scenes, one after another. So yeah, I would give this a 6. Just because I like the die cut and the art is pretty good. I just wish it had a little bit more detail. But I like the panel layouts, and the writing is solid for what it is. It's not gonna change the world or anything, and it doesn't hold any kind of emotional impact on me. But it's good and solid. So yeah, I would give it a solid 6. So thanks a lot for watching, you guys. And like I said before, please consider subscribing if you haven't. And let me know what you think about the ferret, number 1. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.